Okay, Zwifters, here we are with race 5 of the season, which is Two Bridges Loop. We go through the S's across the only intermediate, which is the sprint, the hilly KOM bypass, and you're done. A's and B's are doing 6 laps of that, which is a total of 47 kilometers. And the C's and D's are doing 3 laps, which is 21.5 kilometers. So, where do I score points? Well, obviously finishing position gives you points. Everyone gets points there from 40 down to 1 point. And over the bridge, which is the only sprint, the only intermediate, I should say, there's both FAL and FTS available, so no complications like last week. That is the first 10 across the line get between 10 and 1 points for FAL, and then the fastest 10 over all the times you go over the sprint get between 20 and 2 points. Hopefully that makes sense. There are 3 power-ups given twice each lap at the start and at the end of the sprint. There is the truck for increased draft. There is the aero for, well, I guess better aero. And there is the feather for decreased weight. And I've got some highlights of where I think those should be used for best effect as we go through. The bike choice, it is like last week, pretty much a dealer's choice. It is mostly flat or rolling, but there are a couple of hills in there. For me, I think Tron wins the day, or a balanced bike wins the day. But you may want to accentuate your positives or mitigate your weaknesses, and we'll get to that slide and talk a little more about what the options are. Let's just jump on and take a look at the DS notes. Now, I changed the format this week. It made no sense to me to have a blow by blow, distance by distance for every one of the different areas of the ride. I broke it into 4 sections. The start through to the S's, the last S's climb through to the end of the sprint, which I think of as the sprint section, from the end of the sprint to the hilly KOM marker, and from the hilly KOM marker to the end of the lap. The different distances for each of these, but they're for me where the lap breaks down logically. So let's kind of take them one at a time. The start gate through to the S's is pretty much going to be find your group, ride in your group, stay in your group. It's a good time to rest. The sprint itself for me, as I said, starts where you start the final rise of the S's. Actually, it's the S's reverse, but there you go. Because if you have a feather, that is a great time to launch a long distance attack. If you have the truck, you can use that on the descent down ahead of the sprint. And then, of course, as soon as it flattens out and you round that bend, you hit the sprint itself, and you'll be using aero if you have it there. So that's the sprint section. You'll see that early on, but not as early as last week, 1.9 kilometers or so into the ride, then 9, 16.1, 23.2, 33.3, and 37.4 kilometers into the ride. The next section is the sprint, end of the sprint marker, I should say, to the hilly KOM marker, and that's really all about sitting in, resting, and biding your time. If you see an opportunity to bridge to the next group, you should do that, but other than that, you shouldn't be taking the lead. You should be taking your turns, perhaps, but pretty much using that time to rest after the exertions of the sprint and preparing for the last section, hilly to home, or hilly and home, as I've called it here, which is, I think, every lap is an opportunity to gain positional advantage. If you are a puncher or a sprinter, then that really steep section, it's not long, but it is steep, that takes you from the hilly KOM marker to the bypass, is a great time to leap ahead of the group that you're in and bridge to the next group. If you are a little heavier but strong, you can accelerate fast as you hit the brow of that hill and you go across the bypass and be at super tuck speed by the time you hit the steep descent, and aero could be useful for that. And then, of course, the last kilometer or so is pretty much flat, and that takes you to the line, particularly important on the last lap. So that really defines my strategy for the day, for each lap. And if we jump on, I've really marked out only 4 key attack points. If you're feeling super lazy and you don't want to focus too much on all the different sections, I think these are the critical areas. The last S's climb, the big one, great attack point. The attack point for the sprint, I should say, and that little Sherpa Dave logo on the picture there, on the profile. That's where the sprint is, the intermediate points. And then the last 3 of my little lightning bolts, all on that last section, hilly to home. It's the leap forward up the hill. It's the accelerate over the top to get up to super tuck speed, and then of course the super tuck down. Those are my 4 lightning bolt key attack points for the ride itself. Now let's take a closer look at the bike choices. I'll leave this here for a second. Week by week, the choices don't really change, particularly because of the way that the ZRL races are structured. It's pretty much always going to be the same bikes for any given level, right? I think there are lots and lots of choices of bikes that you can make, but ultimately most of them are a waste of drops. These are the ones that make sense to me, and the points at which it makes sense to change. But on this route, I think it's all about a balanced setup, and if you've got the Tron, I think it is the best bike to use on this particular race. So if you have the Tron, I'd suggest you use it. If you don't have the Tron, I suggest you sign up for it, and if you haven't signed up for it, yet, and if you have signed up for it, I suggest you go find some hill supply. There you go. Let's take a look at the ride itself. All right, out of the pens rather, we start strong. Find your group. As I said earlier on, I think there are 4 logical sections to each lap, and I think thinking of breaking the lap down that way makes a lot of sense. How's the race going to go? I think Season D's with 3 laps. I think that's going to go hard all the way from the start to the end. I think the A's and B's have a little more thinking to do. 6 laps for you guys means that, and I say you guys because there's no way I'm a B, not with my current level of fitness. There you go. But I think you have some thinking to do about how you break those 6 laps down, and where your effort goes, where you put the effort in and where you don't. It's not going to be 110% from start to finish like I think it will be for Season D's. All right, so we're moving on through. You're in your group, you're sitting in. There's nothing to be gained by gaining matches here unless you see something opportunistic to make the break from where you are to the next group ahead. We take the turn towards the S's reverse. And let's, as we're going through here, spend a couple of seconds talking about how the best way to handle the S's is. It's short, sharp undulations. If you just pedal at a steady pace, I don't think you do yourself any favors. What I do is I go hard up the inclines, and then a little softer micro brake, if you will, but not coasting, down. And the goal is to exit each undulation faster than I went into that undulation. So my exit speed after those 4 undulations should be significantly faster. Obviously, take all of that into account while still sitting in and resting where it makes sense for the undulations. All right, there's the last one. Down we go, and it's time to start thinking about the sprint. So break this from here to the sprint into 3 sections. You got the uphill section, a great time to be using the feather if you've got it. You have the downhill section, which is going to come shortly. Apparently not that shortly. There we go. Heading down 200 meters down at a -5% average. It's fairly steady, this one, whereas the uphill is a little more variable. And across here, and we're on the sprint itself. It's short at 180 meters, and it is flat. That's where your FAL and FTS points will come from. Pick up the power up and away you go. Let's spend a few seconds on this flat while you're recovering to just give a shout out to all these guys who are the October Coffee Club contributors. The last list was getting so long, I broke it down to just the October team. So here we go. Thank you to every one of you guys. Donating to the Coffee Club, though, is not the only way that you can support the channel. Here's my order of preference. Share this video. If you're getting value from it, share with the rest of your team. Download the DS notes. And lastly, comment on and subscribe on YouTube. That really helps the channel out. A big thumbs up like does as well. All right, we're stepping up here, but we're still sitting in. It steps up in 2 inclines. It's 400 meters with an average of 2%, but it's really more like 150 meters at 3%, a little flat, and another 150 at 3%. Does that matter? Not really, because you're just sitting in, and unless you see some super good opportunity to bridge, then you're just resting and recovering. Because I really think tactically, it is that last section of each lap that really makes the difference. So my advice, sit in from here all the way to the KOM marker. All right, hilly and home, or hilly to home. Can't make up my mind what to call it. Again, break this into 3 sections. You've got the bit from here to the KOM marker to the bypass, which is where if you are a puncher, you are just going to push hard and get yourself some positional advantage. And I don't think on just the last lap. I think you can do that on every lap. And what are you going to use to do that? Well, I think you're going to use the feather, because that's exactly what you should use at this point. Because this hits 11%, not for long, but as we round this bend, it's really steep. If you've got momentum though, you can really make some gains. As we round this bend, you can see the brow of the hill. And it's time to double down and power through, because you need to go from very slow to super tuck speed in no short order. But it is mostly downhill as we're going down here. It's not much, 2-3% down, but it's enough. And if you've got the aero, this may be a good time to use it, particularly on the non-last lap. Because if you can get to super tuck speed for here, you can have a micro rest. But make sure you put the power on as you hit the bridge. And you've got 1 kilometer to go. Make sure you're counting your laps so you know how many you've got to go and whether this is the last one. And it's now mostly flat to the line, a little bit of downhill, but mostly flat. 400 meters to the finish line. 300 as we round this bend. 200 as we come under that bridge. You should full power now be sprinting to the line. It's 100 or less meters to go, and you are done. Well done, everybody. I'm going to leave you, as I always do, with the 4 downloadables, but of course, as always, you are very welcome to download them free of charge, or for whatever donation you'd like to give. And the link for that is in the top right corner, probably right around now. And I will see you on Tuesday. Between now and then, ride on, everybody.
rise. Stop rolling the dice and just compromise. It's the chance of your life.